Hi guys, tonight, we travel back into the world's most forgotten history. Close your eyes, relax, and drift into history. Welcome to another quiet journey through the past. Tonight's story begins in a distant, forgotten age. Settle in, and let history slowly fade you into sleep. This is boring history for sleep. Relax, and step gently into the ancient world. Tonight, history becomes calm, quiet, and sleepy. Let the past carry you softly into sleep. In tonight's slow and peaceful history story, we arrive in ancient Egypt long before the first light reaches the wide waters of the Nile. The stars still rest above the quiet land. Their reflections shimmer softly across the slow-moving river, where almost nothing stirs except the gentle movement of water touching the muddy banks. The air is cool for a little while longer. Soon the heat will return, just as it always does, but for now the darkness holds the land in peaceful silence. Across the river valley, small villages sleep beneath the fading stars. The homes are made from sun-dried mud bricks, standing close together as they have for many seasons. Their walls are thick enough to soften the heat of the day and hold a little coolness through the night. Flat roofs wait quietly beneath the sky. Woven mats lie rolled beside sleeping families. Clay jars stand patiently in dark corners. Simple wooden stools remain where they were left after yesterday's evening meal. Nothing inside these homes is hurried. Nothing is wasted. Everything has its place because tomorrow will look very much like yesterday. For many people living in ancient Egypt, life is shaped less by surprise and more by rhythm. The seasons return. The river rises and falls. Bread is baked. Fields are planted. Children grow. Elders grow slower. Hands become rough from years of work. Every sunrise asks for the same familiar tasks. Routine is not something people complain about. It is simply the way life moves. Long before the kings are awake inside distant palaces, long before officials begin reading reports, ordinary families begin another day that feels comfortingly familiar. Inside one quiet home, a mother slowly opens her eyes. She listens before moving. She hears the soft breathing of her children. Somewhere outside, a donkey shifts its weight against a wooden fence. A bird calls only once before becoming quiet again. The breeze slips gently through the doorway, carrying the faint smell of damp earth from the river. She sits up carefully. Her feet touch the cool floor. The packed earth beneath her sandals feels smooth after many years of sweeping. She wraps simple linen around herself before reaching for a clay bowl resting beside the wall. There is no clock. There is no bell. Time is measured by light, habit, and memory. She already knows what must be done because every morning has taught her. Nearby, her husband begins to wake as well. Years of farming have trained his body to rise before the sun. He stretches slowly, not because he feels rested, but because his muscles have become stiff after countless seasons spent bending over fields. His hands carry small scars. His shoulders remain heavy even after sleep. Outside, the eastern sky begins changing from deep blue to pale gray. One by one, other homes begin waking. A quiet cough comes from one doorway. Soft footsteps appear along a narrow path. Someone gently lifts a water jar. Someone else brushes dust from a woven basket. No one speaks loudly. The village greets the morning with calm movements instead of noise. The smell of baking bread slowly begins drifting through the air. Grain has already been ground into flour using heavy stone tools. It took patience yesterday, and it will take patience again tomorrow. Flour is mixed with water. Dough is shaped by practiced hands. Small loaves wait beside warm ovens made from clay. The The smell spreads gently through the village. Warm bread is one of the first comforts of every day. Nearby, another family prepares onions, dried fish, and simple beer made from grain. The meal is plain, but it is enough to begin another long day beneath the Egyptian sun. Nothing about breakfast is hurried. The food is eaten slowly because the work ahead will demand steady strength. As daylight grows brighter, children begin rubbing sleep from their eyes. The youngest stay close beside their mothers. Older children already understand their daily responsibilities. Some will help carry water. Some will gather reeds. Some will watch younger brothers and sisters. Others will soon begin learning the same work their parents have done for years. Very few people expect life to become something completely different. Instead, each generation quietly steps into familiar routines that have shaped families for centuries. The village itself seems almost unchanged from one lifetime to another. Its narrow paths remain dusty. Its wells remain busy. Its walls are repaired little by little whenever cracks appear. People know every doorway. They recognize every voice. Even strangers are noticed long before they arrive. As the sun finally appears above the eastern horizon, golden light spreads across the fields beside the Nile. The coolness begins disappearing. Warmth settles onto the land. Farmers shoulder wooden tools worn smooth from years of use. Simple hoes, baskets, ropes, and wooden yokes wait near the edges of the fields. The soil beside the river is dark and rich because the Nile has once again done what it has always done. It has brought life. Its yearly flooding leaves behind fresh earth where grain can grow. Without the river, these villages could not exist. Every family understands this without needing to say it. The Nile is part of every ordinary day. Its quiet presence shapes every routine. As groups of farmers begin walking toward the fields, sandals leave soft marks in the dust. Some walk together without speaking very much. Morning silence feels comfortable. The sound of footsteps mixes with birds calling across the wetlands. Reeds bend gently in the breeze. Fishing boats rest quietly against muddy banks. Soon they too will begin another familiar journey. Along the river, fishermen untie simple ropes securing narrow wooden boats. Their hands move almost automatically. Each knot has been tied thousands of times. Each fishing net has been repaired again and again. The ropes feel rough against their fingers. The boats creak softly as they drift into calm water. Mist still hangs low above the Nile. The world feels wrapped in gentle quiet. One fisherman dips his hand into the cool water before lifting an oar. The river answers only with small circles spreading across its surface. He knows where fish often gather. Not because someone recently told him. Because his father taught him. And before that, his grandfather learned from another pair of patient hands. Routine becomes memory carried from one generation into the next. Back in the fields, workers begin spreading across the farmland. Some bend immediately toward young plants. Others clear weeds growing between rows. A pair of oxen slowly pull a wooden plow through damp soil. Their steady pace never changes. The farmer guiding them watches carefully, adjusting only when necessary. The work is repetitive. The movements are simple. Hour after hour, they continue. There is comfort in knowing exactly what must be done. There is no need to wonder what tomorrow expects. Tomorrow will ask for these same careful hands once again. The rising sun slowly grows stronger. Shadows become shorter. The warmth settles across shoulders already damp with effort. Sweat begins collecting beneath linen clothing. Dust clings to legs and sandals. Still, the work continues without complaint. Everyone understands the rhythm. Morning work. A short rest. More work. Food. More work. Then evening. Then sleep. Then another sunrise. Far away, beyond villages and fields, larger towns awaken with different kinds of routines. Markets slowly fill with merchants arranging simple goods. Pottery. Linen. Wooden tools. Fresh vegetables. Fish. Dates. Jars of oil. Baskets woven from reeds. Every object has passed through many hands before reaching the marketplace. Nothing appears suddenly. Everything requires patient labor. A potter has already spent hours shaping wet clay. His wheel turns slowly beneath careful hands. The vessel dried beneath the sun. Later it rested inside a hot kiln before finally reaching someone's basket. Even the simplest bowl carries many quiet moments inside its creation. Nearby, a carpenter begins another day inside a crowded workshop. The smell of fresh cut wood fills the warm air. Small curls of shaved timber gather across the floor. Wooden mallets strike gently. Copper blades scrape carefully along smooth surfaces. Nothing happens quickly. Every chair, every chest, every handle, every oar, every door frame, all are shaped through patient repetition. The carpenter rarely thinks about each movement anymore. His hands remember what to do before his thoughts arrive. Years have taught them. Across town, scribes quietly enter shaded rooms where records must be written. Their work is different from farming, yet it too follows steady routines. Papyrus sheets wait neatly stacked. Ink rests inside small containers. Reed pens lie beside smooth writing boards. The first marks appear slowly. Carefully. Orderly. Grain deliveries. Tax records. Names. Numbers. Measurements. Lists continue across the page in calm, careful lines. The scribe's back begins aching after hours of sitting. His fingers become stained with ink. Still, he continues. One line after another. One page after another. Outside, life continues moving beneath the growing heat. Children laugh quietly while chasing one another through narrow streets before being called back toward family work. Goats wander between homes. A woman sweeps dust away from her doorway even though more dust will arrive tomorrow. She knows this. Still, she sweeps. Because routine is part of caring for a home. A clean floor lasts only a little while. Yet it is cleaned again. Every day. Nearby, another woman kneels beside a grinding stone. She places grain onto the flat surface before pushing a heavy upper stone back and forth. The motion is slow. Steady. Endless. The sound becomes almost musical. Stone against stone. Again. 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 Fine flour slowly gathers beneath her patient hands. Her shoulders grow tired. Her wrists ache slightly. She pauses only long enough to stretch before beginning once more. This quiet labor fills many hours throughout her life. No audience watches. No one celebrates it. Yet without this simple work, families cannot eat. Many of the most important tasks in ancient Egypt happen quietly, almost unnoticed. They disappear into ordinary days. As morning slowly becomes afternoon, the desert heat presses more heavily against the valley. The air feels thicker. Even birds become quieter. Workers move more slowly beneath the powerful sun. Some wrap extra linen around their heads. Others pause beneath small patches of shade offered by palm trees. Clay water jars become precious companions. Cool water slips slowly down tired throats. Faces glisten with sweat. Breathing becomes deeper. No one expects comfort from the midday heat. Instead, they learn to live beside it. Like the river. Like the wind. Like the passing seasons. Heat simply belongs to life. In one small building near the edge of a village, bread continues baking inside clay ovens. Warm air rolls through the room carrying rich smells of grain and smoke. The baker gently presses another piece of dough into shape. His hands have repeated this movement so many times that they seem almost effortless. Outside, someone arrives carrying fresh flour. Another waits for finished loaves. Nothing here feels rushed. Everyone understands that bread takes time. Fire cannot be hurried. Dough cannot be forced. Patience feeds the village. And as the day continues to unfold beneath the bright Egyptian sun, every quiet action, every familiar task, and every steady breath becomes another small thread woven into the endless rhythm that quietly guides life along the banks of the Nile. The afternoon settles gently across the Nile Valley, and the brightness of the sun seems to soften, though the warmth still rests heavily upon the land. Heat lingers in the stones, in the mud brick walls, and across the wide fields where so many quiet hands continue their familiar work. The wind carries a little dust along the paths between the villages, lifting it only for a moment before allowing it to settle once again. Nothing in the valley seems eager to move quickly. Even the river appears patient. Its steady current glides past reeds that whisper softly whenever the breeze finds them. Small birds rest among the tall green stems before lifting into the sky with slow, graceful wings. A fisherman watches them for a moment while guiding his narrow boat closer to the bank. His basket is not yet full. There is still time. There is almost always time when life follows the same gentle rhythm. He lowers another woven net into the quiet water. His fingers know exactly how much rope to release. They know where to pause and where to pull. Every knot feels familiar beneath his skin. His father once showed him these same movements without many words. The lesson did not happen in a single day. It unfolded over many seasons, one morning after another, until careful practice became memory. Now he teaches his own son in much the same way. The boy sits quietly near the front of the boat. His feet barely reach the wooden floorboards. He watches every movement with serious eyes. Sometimes he asks a question. More often he simply observes. Learning in ancient Egypt often happens like this. Not inside large halls. Not through long speeches. But beside rivers. Inside workshops. Along dusty roads. While bread is baked. While baskets are woven. While fields are planted. Knowledge moves gently from one pair of hands to another. The river carries boats downstream while families carry traditions forward. Back in the village, afternoon shadows begin growing longer. Children who spent the morning helping their parents now gather bundles of reeds from the edge of the water. The reeds are smooth and cool where they have stood in the river. They are tied into neat bundles with simple cord before being carried home across narrow footpaths. Some will become mats for sleeping. Some will become baskets. Others may help repair roofs before the next season arrives. Almost everything has another use. Very little is thrown away. Old rope becomes shorter rope. Broken baskets are patched. Worn clothing is mended. Clay jars with small cracks may still carry grain if they no longer hold water. People understand the value of careful hands. They understand the quiet satisfaction of repairing something instead of replacing it. Inside one modest home, an elderly woman sits beneath the shade near the doorway. Her work is slower now than it was many years ago. Her fingers are bent with age. The lines on her face have deepened beneath countless Egyptian summers. Yet she continues weaving reeds together with calm patience. Her hands pause only to rest for a moment before beginning again. Nearby, her granddaughter watches carefully. The child reaches for a few reeds. Her first attempts are uneven. The strips cross in the wrong places. The basket leans slightly to one side. The older woman smiles gently. She does not hurry the lesson. There will be tomorrow. And the day after that. Skills do not need to arrive all at once. The village itself understands patience. Across the open yard, two men repair part of a low mud brick wall that has begun to crumble after many seasons beneath the sun. They mix fresh mud with straw, pressing it firmly into place. Their hands become coated with damp earth. The smell is rich and familiar, carrying the scent of the riverbank itself. The wall has been repaired before. It will be repaired again. Mud brick homes are never truly finished. Like the people who live inside them, they require constant quiet care. The work is never dramatic. It simply continues. Farther away, where the fields stretch toward the horizon, farmers continue tending their crops despite the afternoon warmth. The grain sways gently whenever the breeze arrives. Water channels carry life across the fields, guiding the precious river into places where growing plants wait with silent patience. A young farmer walks beside one of these channels carrying a wooden shovel across his shoulder. He pauses to remove a small clump of mud that slows the flow of water. Almost immediately the stream begins moving freely again. Tiny changes matter. A narrow channel left unattended for too long may leave part of a field dry. So each day someone walks these paths. Someone checks the banks. Someone clears the reeds. Someone watches the water. Routine protects tomorrow's harvest. Nearby, an older farmer kneels to examine the soil between rows of young plants. He presses his fingers gently into the earth. It is still moist beneath the surface. He nods quietly to himself. Years have taught him to understand the land through simple touches. The smell of damp soil tells its own story. The color speaks. The weight of the earth in his palm speaks. He has learned to listen without words. As the afternoon slowly moves onward, the sounds of labor become softer. The sharp rhythm of tools striking stone has become slower now. In one workshop, a stonemason wipes dust from his forehead before lifting another hammer. The block before him will eventually become part of a doorway. Or perhaps a column. Maybe a simple grinding stone for another household. He does not know where it will finally rest. His responsibility is only today's work. Chip by chip. Piece by piece. Stone gives way beneath careful effort. Tiny fragments gather around his feet. The sound echoes gently through the shaded workshop. It is a familiar sound. One that has filled his ears for most of his life. At first, years ago, every strike demanded complete attention. Now his body remembers the balance. The weight. The angle. His muscles perform the work almost peacefully. Routine has become skill. Skill has become comfort. Across another part of the settlement, the smell of linen drying in the warm air drifts between homes. Freshly washed cloth hangs across wooden poles. The breeze lifts the edges gently. Women fold finished pieces with practiced hands before placing them neatly inside woven baskets. Simple clothing may appear ordinary, yet every thread required patient work. Flax had to be grown, harvested, separated, spun into thread, woven carefully, washed, dried beneath the sun. Nothing appeared suddenly. Every object carried many quiet hours within it. Even a simple piece of linen reflects countless routines shared by many people. The afternoon light slowly changes color. The harsh brightness begins giving way to softer gold. Palm trees stretch longer shadows across village paths. Goats wander back toward small enclosures. Their bells make gentle sounds that drift through the evening air. Children return carrying empty baskets after finishing small errands. Some carry bundles of firewood gathered from dry branches. Others balance clay jars filled with fresh water from the river. They walk carefully. Not because someone constantly reminds them. Because careful walking has become habit. A spilled jar means another journey. Everyone understands the value of steady hands. Near the riverbank, several women wash clothing against smooth stones. The sound of splashing water mixes with quiet conversation. No one raises their voice. There is no need. They have worked beside one another through many seasons. Stories are shared slowly. News travels from one family to another. Someone speaks about a healthy newborn child. Another mentions a grandfather whose knees ache more each winter. Someone wonders whether next year's flood will be generous. These conversations drift as gently as the current itself. Nothing feels urgent. The work continues while the words flow naturally. A little farther downstream, an old ferry crosses the river carrying farmers, baskets of vegetables, clay pots, and bundles of reeds. The boat moves slowly beneath steady hands. Passengers wait quietly. No one expects speed. Crossing the Nile has always required patience. The river decides its own pace. The ferryman has crossed these waters so many times that every bend feels familiar. He notices changing winds almost before they arrive. He knows which sandbars appear during lower water. He recognizes the calls of birds returning toward evening. His days blend together peacefully. One crossing becomes another. One season becomes the next. The river remembers every journey. As the sun begins lowering toward the western horizon, the air finally starts to cool. Only a little at first. Enough for workers to lift their heads with quiet relief. The long hours beneath the bright sky are ending. Tools are gathered. Ropes are coiled. Baskets are lifted. Fields slowly empty as people begin the familiar walk home. No one rushes. Tired feet naturally find the same paths they have traveled hundreds of times before. Dust rises gently beneath worn sandals. The village grows livelier once again. Smoke begins curling upward from cooking fires. The smell of fresh bread returns, along with roasted onions. Lentils simmer inside clay pots. Some families prepare beans. Others share dried fish caught earlier in the day. Simple herbs add gentle fragrance to the evening meal. Nothing is extravagant. Everything is welcome. Children wait patiently while parents finish preparing food. The youngest grows sleepy before supper is even ready. Long days outdoors leave little energy for staying awake after sunset. Inside one home, a father removes his sandals before sitting upon a woven mat. His feet are sore. Dust covers his ankles. Tiny scratches mark his hands from reeds and rough tools. His wife places warm bread before him. Neither speaks very much at first. The silence is peaceful. Comfort does not always require conversation. Sometimes sharing food after a day of labor says enough. Nearby, their son quietly watches his father repairing a wooden handle that loosened during the day's work. The repair cannot wait until morning. Yet it is not difficult. A small wedge of wood. A few careful taps. A short piece of cord wrapped tightly. The tool is ready once more. Ancient Egypt is full of these small evening tasks. Nothing grand. Nothing celebrated. Simply another quiet act that helps tomorrow begin smoothly. As darkness gradually spreads across the valley, the colors of the land begin fading into softer shades. The golden fields become brown. The river reflects deep blue once more. One by one, the first stars quietly return to the sky, just as they did the night before, and the countless nights before that, watching over a land where almost every life is gently guided by the steady comfort of routine. The evening settles gently over the Nile Valley, and the last warmth of the day slowly rises from the earth. The fields grow quiet one path at a time. Workers disappear into their villages, carrying empty baskets, wooden tools, and the peaceful tiredness that follows an honest day's labor. Across the river, the fading sunlight stretches into long bands of gold before slowly giving way to soft shades of blue and violet. The wind changes with the coming night. It no longer carries the sharp heat of the afternoon. Instead, it moves gently between the mud brick homes, brushing against woven reed fences and open doorways. Palm leaves rustle softly overhead. Somewhere in the distance, a donkey lets out a slow call before becoming quiet once again. The village begins another evening that feels almost exactly like the one before it. No one finds this surprising. For most people in ancient Egypt, the comfort of life comes from knowing what tomorrow will ask of them. Inside one small home, a cooking fire glows with a warm orange light. Its gentle flames dance against the mud walls, making quiet shadows that seem to breathe with every movement of the fire. Clay pots rest over the coals, filling the room with the familiar smell of lentils, onions, and fresh bread. A mother tears warm loaves into smaller pieces. She places them into simple bowls. The family gathers without ceremony. There is no grand feast. Only enough food to satisfy tired bodies before sleep arrives. The youngest child reaches carefully toward a piece of bread that has only just come from the oven. It is still too warm to hold for long. The child smiles quietly and waits a little longer. Patience is learned in many small ways. Around a meal, conversation comes slowly. People speak about the condition of the fields. Someone mentions that the water channels held their shape well today. Another remembers seeing large birds standing among the reeds. An older family member wonders whether the coming flood will arrive at the usual time. No one speaks quickly. There is no need to hurry words after a day that has already been full. Silence is welcome too. The quiet between conversations feels comfortable rather than empty. When the meal is finished, the work of the day is not completely over. Bowls must be rinsed. The fire must be watched. The remaining bread is wrapped carefully so that it stays fresh for the morning. Small tasks continue, each one gentle and familiar. Outside, the sky darkens further. Stars begin filling the heavens one after another. Without bright city lights, the night above ancient Egypt feels endless. The stars appear close enough to touch. Many people lift their eyes toward them before returning indoors. They have watched these same stars throughout their lives. Their parents looked upon them. Their grandparents did too. The heavens seem steady, reliable, much like the rhythm of daily life below. Near the edge of the village, a fisherman finishes cleaning his nets before hanging them carefully to dry. The ropes are damp from the river. His fingers move slowly through every section, searching for tears. A small hole is repaired immediately. Another knot is tightened. If the work is left undone until morning, it may become more difficult later. So the repairs happen now, while the evening is peaceful. His son sits nearby, watching in the firelight. The boy has begun learning which fibers make the strongest cord. He notices how carefully each knot is tied. The lesson is quiet, almost wordless. The older man rarely explains every detail. Instead, he works steadily, trusting that careful observation will teach what spoken instructions cannot. In this way, countless skills travel through the generations. Not in large ceremonies, not in written books, but through ordinary evenings beside simple homes. Farther into the village, an elderly man sits outside upon a low wooden stool. The day's warmth still lingers in the walls behind him. His walking staff rests across his knees. Children gather nearby, not because they expect exciting tales, but because they enjoy hearing familiar stories told once again. He speaks softly. His voice carries the gentle rhythm of someone who has repeated these stories many times. He remembers floods from long ago. He remembers seasons when the harvest was generous. He remembers friends whose names younger children no longer recognize. The stories drift into the cool evening air. No one interrupts. The children listen with quiet attention. They are not simply hearing stories. They are learning where they belong. They are becoming part of a long line of ordinary people whose lives are joined together by memory and routine. Beyond the homes, the Nile continues its endless journey. Even at night, the river never truly rests. Its surface reflects the moon, broken only by gentle ripples where fish rise briefly before disappearing again. A small boat glides silently through the darkness. Its single oarsman moves with calm confidence. He knows these waters even when little can be seen. The current feels familiar beneath the boat. The breeze tells him which direction to face. The sounds of frogs among the reeds help him understand how close he is to shore. Years of repetition have sharpened every sense. What once required careful thought has become instinct. Not because life has become easier, but because routine has quietly shaped the body and mind. Elsewhere, in a larger town, the workshops have finally grown still. The stonecutters have laid down their hammers. The carpenters have stacked their tools neatly against the walls. The potters have covered fresh clay so it will remain soft until morning. Dust settles across empty work tables. The silence feels earned. Every workshop carries the memory of the day's labor. Wood shavings remain scattered across the floor. Stone dust rests in pale layers beneath unfinished blocks. Half-shaped pots wait patiently beside spinning wheels that will not turn again until sunrise. Nothing seems abandoned. Everything is simply resting. Tomorrow these same hands will return. The same work will begin once more. Inside a scribe's modest room, a small oil lamp still burns. Its flame flickers gently whenever a breeze enters through the doorway. The scribe studies one final page before rolling the papyrus carefully. His eyes feel tired. His shoulders ache from hours spent leaning forward. Writing may seem less demanding than farming or quarry work, yet long hours leave their own quiet marks upon the body. He cleans his reed pen with slow care. The ink container is sealed. The writing board is placed where it always rests. Order brings peace. Everything waits where it belongs. Morning will arrive more smoothly because tonight ended with care. Throughout Egypt, thousands upon thousands of similar evenings unfold beneath the same sky. In one village, someone repairs a sandal strap. In another, a woman spins flax into fine thread. Elsewhere, a child practices tying simple knots under the watchful eyes of a grandparent. A shepherd counts his goats before closing the gate. A merchant quietly arranges goods for tomorrow's market. Each task is small, yet together they create the steady rhythm of an entire civilization. People often think of ancient Egypt through its great temples, towering monuments, and magnificent tombs. Yet those remarkable achievements could only exist because countless ordinary evenings unfolded much like this one. Someone baked bread. Someone carried water. Someone sharpened a tool. Someone repaired a roof. Someone recorded grain. Someone planted seeds. Someone watched over sleeping children. The greatness of the kingdom rested upon millions of simple routines repeated faithfully across generations. Night deepens. The moon climbs higher above the valley. Inside the homes, families prepare for sleep. Woven mats are unrolled across packed earth floors. Simple linen cloth is spread carefully. Children curl beside their parents. The youngest often fall asleep almost immediately, their long day ending before the adults have finished their final quiet conversations. The older members of the family stretch tired muscles. Hands rubbed raw by labor are examined in the dim light. A sore shoulder is gently massaged. Feet are washed with cool water when enough remains in the jar. There are no soft beds. No thick mattresses. Comfort comes instead from deep weariness. After hours of walking, lifting, grinding, rowing, weaving, digging, and carrying, even the simplest sleeping place feels welcoming. Outside, the village slowly becomes silent. The last cooking fires fade into glowing embers. Dogs settle near doorways. Goats lie quietly together. The breeze carries the faint scent of cooling earth mixed with river water. Above, the stars continue their slow journey across the heavens. Time itself seems to move gently. No bells announce the hour. No clocks mark the passing night. People sleep until habit, birdsong, and the first pale light begin another day. The rhythm is older than memory. The body learns it from childhood. Without needing to count the hours, people wake almost together. Their lives move with the sun, the river, and the seasons. This steady pattern shapes every year. The annual flood arrives. Fields are prepared. Seeds are planted. Crops are tended. Harvest follows. Storage jars are filled. Repairs are made. The flood returns once again. The cycle never feels rushed. It unfolds with quiet certainty. A child born into this world does not need anyone to explain that life follows a rhythm. The rhythm surrounds them from their very first morning. They hear grinding stones before they understand words. They smell baking bread before they remember faces. They watch parents carry water long before they are strong enough to lift a jar themselves. Little by little, routine becomes part of who they are. Not as a burden, but as the gentle thread that holds family, village, and kingdom together. And so, beneath the peaceful Egyptian night, while the Nile flows silently through the darkness and the warm desert breeze slips between sleeping homes, another ordinary day quietly settles into memory, making room for another sunrise that will arrive with the same familiar grace, the same patient work, and the same comforting rhythm that has guided life along the river for countless generations. Long before the first edge of sunlight reaches the eastern horizon, the Nile Valley rests in one of its quietest moments. The stars remain bright above the sleeping villages. The moon hangs low over the river, leaving a silver path across the gentle water. The current moves almost silently, flowing as it did yesterday, as it will tomorrow, and as it has for generations beyond counting. Along the muddy banks, tall reeds sway with the lightest breeze. Their soft rustling becomes one of the few sounds that can be heard before morning begins. The air is cool enough that many families remain wrapped beneath simple linen coverings. Inside the mud brick homes, the darkness feels gentle rather than empty. A few glowing embers still rest beneath yesterday's cooking fire. The warmth they give is small, yet enough to soften the coolness before dawn. In one house, an elderly woman wakes before everyone else. She does not sit up immediately. For a few peaceful moments, she simply listens. She hears the quiet breathing of her grandchildren. A donkey shifts its weight outside. Somewhere farther away, a dog gives a single bark before settling down again. The familiar sounds reassure her. Everything is where it should be. Slowly, she rises. Her knees feel stiff this morning. They often do now. Many years of grinding grain, carrying water, and walking the dusty paths have left their gentle marks upon her body. She places one hand against the wall for balance before stepping carefully across the smooth earth floor. The home is still. Clay jars stand neatly beside the doorway. Woven baskets rest against the wall. Every object has its place because placing things carefully saves time when daylight arrives. She reaches for a small bundle of dry reeds kept beside the hearth. With practiced hands, she breathes life back into the glowing embers. Tiny sparks appear. A thin thread of smoke rises. Soon, a small flame begins to dance once again. The fire has become part of her morning for so many years that she no longer thinks about each movement. Her body remembers. Outside, darkness slowly begins to fade. The eastern sky changes almost too gently to notice. Deep blue becomes lighter. The first pale colors spread above the distant desert. One bird calls from a palm tree. Another answers. The village has not fully awakened, yet life is quietly preparing itself. Soon, footsteps begin sounding along the narrow paths. Soft. Unhurried. Familiar. A young woman carries two empty clay jars balanced carefully across a wooden yoke resting on her shoulders. She walks toward the river before the morning grows warm. This journey is part of nearly every day. The path feels as familiar as the inside of her own home. She knows where the ground becomes uneven. She knows which stones become slippery after the flood season. She knows where reeds grow thickest beside the water. As she reaches the riverbank, several others are already there. No one seems surprised to see familiar faces. Most mornings begin with the same quiet meeting. Water jars are lowered carefully into the river. Cool water rushes inside with a gentle sound. The jars become heavy. Very heavy. Still, each person lifts them with practiced strength. Years of repeating the same task have built muscles that quietly support daily life. The journey home is slower. The weight presses against shoulders and arms. Yet there is comfort in knowing that fresh water now waits for the day's cooking, drinking, washing, and baking. Nearby, another woman kneels at the river's edge, gently rinsing vegetables gathered the previous afternoon. The water slips around her hands. Small circles spread outward across the calm surface. Morning light slowly brightens around her. Mist rises gently from the river, giving the valley a soft and peaceful appearance. The world feels as though it is waking very slowly. Across the fields, the first farmers arrive while the air is still pleasant. Many prefer beginning before the strongest heat returns. They carry wooden hoes across their shoulders. Some lead oxen with quiet patience. Others bring baskets filled with seed or simple tools repaired during yesterday evening. No one needs instructions. Every person already knows where to go. Every field has its caretaker. Every irrigation channel has someone responsible for watching it. Routine creates order without many spoken words. An older farmer pauses before entering his field. He kneels briefly and gathers a handful of soil. He rubs it gently between his fingers. Its texture tells him much. The earth still holds enough moisture from yesterday's irrigation. That is good. Today can be spent clearing weeds rather than carrying more water. These small decisions happen every morning. The land speaks quietly to those who have spent their lives listening. Nearby, a younger farmer watches carefully. He notices the older man's movements. No lesson is formally announced. The younger man simply observes. One day, these same habits will belong to him. The wisdom of the fields often passes through quiet imitation rather than long explanation. The sun slowly climbs higher. Golden light washes across the grain. Tiny drops of morning moisture sparkle briefly before disappearing into the warmth. Birds search between the rows for insects. The breeze carries the scent of damp earth mixed with growing plants. For a little while, the work feels almost effortless. Bodies are still rested from sleep. The day has not yet become heavy. In another part of the village, the baker begins preparing the first bread of the morning. Yesterday's flour waits inside covered jars. Fresh water is poured into a large mixing bowl. The baker's hands move with remarkable confidence. The dough is folded, pressed, turned, folded once more. Every movement has been repeated thousands of times. His palms understand the texture without needing to look closely. Too much water. A little more flour. The balance feels right. The dough rests while the clay oven grows hotter. The smell of warming bread slowly drifts into the streets. Children notice it first. One little boy peeks through the doorway, hoping the first loaves will soon emerge. The baker smiles but says nothing. Good bread cannot be rushed. Waiting is part of the process. The boy nods patiently. He has heard this before. He will likely hear it many more times before he grows into a man. Inside another home, a mother begins grinding grain upon a flat stone. The upper grinding stone moves back and forth with steady rhythm. Stone against stone. Again. 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 The sound fills the room with quiet familiarity. It is one of the oldest sounds in the village. Many children grow up falling asleep to it. Many elders measure their mornings by its gentle rhythm. The work is demanding. Her shoulders gradually grow tired. Her hands become dusted with fine flour. Still, she continues without complaint. She knows exactly how much grain her family will need. Too little means hunger before evening. Too much would waste precious effort. Experience guides every handful. As daylight grows brighter, the workshops begin opening. The potter arrives carrying damp clay gathered from the riverbank. He sits before his wheel. For a moment, he simply rests his hands upon the cool clay. Then the wheel begins turning. Slowly at first. His feet guide the rhythm. The clay rises beneath careful fingers. A bowl begins taking shape. Not perfectly. No handmade vessel ever is. Tiny differences remain. A slight curve here. A thicker edge there. These small imperfections are simply part of the work. The potter accepts them with calm satisfaction. Nearby, another artisan carefully paints simple designs onto finished pottery. His brush moves slowly. Steady breathing helps keep each line smooth. The room smells of clay, mineral pigments, and warm earth. Sunlight enters through the doorway, illuminating tiny particles of dust drifting quietly through the air. Time seems to move gently inside the workshop. No one hurries. Across town, a young apprentice joins an older carpenter. Their workshop already carries the pleasant scent of cedar and acacia wood. Wood shavings from yesterday remain neatly swept into one corner. The older craftsman begins sharpening a copper blade before any cutting starts. A sharp tool saves effort. It also produces cleaner work. The apprentice watches every movement. Eventually he begins sharpening another blade himself. His first attempts are uneven. The older carpenter quietly adjusts the angle with a gentle hand. No harsh words are needed. Only patience. Learning arrives slowly. Just as fine furniture is shaped one careful cut at a time, skill also grows through countless ordinary mornings. By now, the streets have become busier. Merchants begin arranging their goods beneath woven awnings. Fresh vegetables are placed into neat piles. Clay jars stand in careful rows. Bundles of linen are unfolded for display. A basket maker hangs new woven baskets where passing customers can easily see them. Each merchant follows almost the same routine every market day. The same careful arrangement. The same greetings. The same patient waiting. People arrive gradually rather than all at once. Neighbors stop to exchange quiet conversation. Someone buys onions. Someone else carries home a new water jar after the old one finally cracked. A fisherman trades fresh fish for bread and oil. A farmer exchanges grain for a repaired tool handle. Life moves through countless small exchanges. Each one simple. Each one necessary. Each one becoming another familiar part of another ordinary day beside the Nile. As the sun climbs steadily toward the middle of the sky, the warmth begins to settle once again across the valley. The shadows shorten. The stones beneath every sandal grow warmer. Yet no one seems surprised by the returning heat. It has come every day for as long as anyone can remember, and just like the steady river, the patient fields, and the quiet rhythm of work that fills every village, it becomes another faithful companion in a life gently shaped by routine, carrying every ordinary soul through another peaceful morning in the timeless land of ancient Egypt. As the morning slowly unfolds, the coolness that welcomed the first workers begins to fade. The gentle breeze still wanders through the valley, but the warmth of the rising sun steadily grows stronger. Across the fields, long shadows become shorter with each passing moment. The Nile continues its quiet journey beside the villages, reflecting the bright sky in soft ripples that shimmer like polished stone. The day is now fully awake. Smoke rises from many cooking fires before disappearing into the clear air. Voices drift gently between homes. Wooden wheels creak beneath heavy carts. A few goats wander through narrow lanes, stopping now and then to nibble at dry plants growing beside mud brick walls. Nothing feels hurried. The village has settled into its familiar rhythm. For many people, this is the most productive part of the day. The body still carries some of the strength gathered during the night. The heat has not yet become overwhelming. Hands move with quiet confidence, knowing that many important tasks should be finished before the afternoon sun reaches its greatest power. In one corner of the village, a young servant carries fresh water toward the home of a wealthy official. The clay jars rest carefully against a wooden frame balanced across the servant's shoulders. Each step must be steady. The path is uneven. Loose stones hide beneath the dust. If one jar falls, hours of work may be lost. The servant walks slowly. Not from fear, but from experience. Careful movement is always faster than beginning again. When the jars finally reach the house, they are placed gently inside a cool storage room. The servant wipes sweat from a tired forehead before beginning another journey to the river. This, too, is part of the day's routine. No one expects only one trip. Water is always needed. Nearby, the household itself is already busy. A cook kneels beside a clay oven where fresh loaves continue to bake. The warm smell of bread fills every room. Another servant prepares onions, herbs, and beans for the midday meal. Someone else sweeps the courtyard, brushing away yesterday's dust even though today's wind will eventually replace it. The work never truly ends. It simply changes with the hours. Each completed task quietly gives way to another. Across the village, children begin helping wherever they are needed. A little girl carries a small basket filled with dates to her grandmother. The basket is almost too large for her arms. She walks carefully, concentrating with every step. When she reaches the doorway, her grandmother smiles warmly. Together they sort the fruit into neat piles. Some dates are eaten fresh. Others are placed into clay jars for later days. The child listens as her grandmother quietly explains which fruit will keep the longest. These simple lessons happen every season. There is no classroom. The home itself is the classroom. Every ordinary chore becomes an opportunity to learn. A young boy follows his older brother toward the fields. His feet raise little clouds of dust with every step. He carries only a small wooden hoe. It is much lighter than the tools used by the grown men. Still, he holds it proudly. He has been trusted with real work. His older brother shows him where weeds should be pulled. Not every green plant belongs in the field. Some steal water from the grain. The younger boy kneels carefully. His first attempts are slow. Sometimes he pulls the wrong plant. The older brother quietly corrects him. No harsh words. No frustration. Only another chance to try again. By the end of the morning, the boy has learned to recognize the tiny differences between the growing grain and the unwanted weeds. His hands become a little more certain. His eyes notice more than they did at sunrise. Little by little, routine becomes knowledge. Farther from the village, several builders work beneath the open sky. Their project is not a great temple or a towering monument. It is a simple storage building where grain can be kept dry after the harvest. The walls rise slowly. Mud bricks are carried one by one. Each brick is shaped by hand. Each one is placed carefully. A worker spreads wet mortar between the rows. Another checks that the wall remains straight. The work asks for patience more than speed. The building grows almost without anyone noticing. One row today. Another tomorrow. Weeks pass. Then months. Eventually the building stands complete. Its quiet purpose will serve the village for many years. The builders understand that lasting work is almost always slow work. Not far away, a group of women gathers beneath the shade of several date palms. Large bundles of flax lie beside them. The long fibers must be cleaned and prepared before they can be spun into thread. Their fingers separate the fibers gently. The movement repeats again and again. Pull. Smooth. Separate. Gather. The work fills many peaceful hours. Conversation flows gently among them. One woman speaks of her youngest son learning to fish. Another remembers a flood that came higher than expected many years ago. Someone laughs softly at the memory of a stubborn goat that wandered into a neighbor's garden. The laughter fades as naturally as it came. The work never stops. Hands continue moving while stories drift through the warm air. The rhythm of labor and conversation has become one and the same. At the edge of the river, a boat loaded with bundles of papyrus glides toward a nearby town. The oars dip into the water with quiet regularity. Splash. Lift. Splash. Lift. The sound blends with the gentle calls of water birds resting among the reeds. The boatman has traveled this route countless times. He knows where the current runs faster. He knows where sand gathers beneath the surface. He steers almost without thinking. Routine has become instinct. The river itself seems to guide him. On the opposite bank, fishermen sort the morning's catch. Some fish are placed into baskets lined with damp reeds. Others are cleaned immediately. Nothing should be wasted. Fish too small to sell may still feed a family. Bones may serve another purpose. Even the woven baskets holding the catch will be repaired many times before they are finally worn beyond use. The careful use of every resource is simply part of life. In a nearby workshop, the steady tapping of a bronze hammer echoes softly against stone walls. A metal worker heats a small tool inside glowing coals. The metal becomes bright with warmth. He lifts it carefully using simple tongs. Each strike of the hammer is measured. Too hard, and the metal may crack. Too soft, and the shape will not change. Experience guides every movement. His apprentice watches quietly from across the room. The older craftsman rarely explains everything at once. Instead, the apprentice learns by observing the same careful process every day. Many seasons from now, his own hands will remember these motions. The lesson will continue without needing many words. Meanwhile, inside a shaded room belonging to a village scribe, the morning's records continue to grow. Farmers arrive carrying small samples of grain. Measurements are carefully noted. Deliveries are recorded. Names are written with steady hands. The scribe dips a reed pen into dark ink before adding another line to the scroll. The scratching sound of the pen is soft and steady. Outside, life feels full of movement. Inside, the room remains peaceful. The scribe works slowly, knowing that clear writing is more valuable than hurried writing. Mistakes take time to correct. Patience saves effort. As the sun climbs higher, the warmth begins pressing more firmly against the roofs of the village. The clay walls absorb the growing heat. The ground beneath every sandal feels warmer now. People begin searching for moments of shade whenever their work allows it. A farmer pauses beneath a sycamore tree, drinking cool water from a clay cup. Nearby, his oxen rest quietly, their slow breathing matching the stillness of the afternoon that is beginning to arrive. No one expects endless strength. Bodies tire. Muscles ache. Shoulders grow heavy. These feelings are as familiar as the sunrise itself. People have learned to work with their own limits rather than against them. Rest, too, has its place within the daily rhythm. A short pause beneath a tree. A drink of cool river water. A piece of fresh bread shared with a friend. A few quiet moments before returning to the fields. These simple pauses allow the day to continue gently instead of becoming a burden. Across the village, the smell of warm bread still drifts through the air, mingling with the scent of damp earth carried from the irrigation channels. Birds circle lazily above the fields before settling once again among the reeds. The steady murmur of ordinary life continues without interruption, each familiar sound blending into another, as countless ordinary people carry out the same careful routines their parents once followed, and their grandparents before them, weaving another peaceful morning into the long, unbroken story of life beside the eternal Nile. The sun continues its slow climb across the wide Egyptian sky, and by the middle of the day the valley glows beneath a blanket of warm light. The fields shimmer gently in the distance. The mud brick walls of the villages hold the morning's warmth, while the open ground seems to breathe the heat back into the air. Even so, life does not stop. It simply changes its pace. The people of the Nile have lived beside this warmth for longer than anyone can remember. They understand that the middle hours of the day ask for steady hands rather than hurried ones. Quick movements only steal strength. Calm movements allow it to last. Across one field, a farmer pauses beside an irrigation channel. The water moves quietly past his sandals. He kneels and cups a little of it in his hands. It feels cool against his sun-warmed skin. For a few moments he lets the water drip slowly through his fingers before taking a careful drink. The silence around him feels complete. Only insects hum among the reeds. A bird glides low over the river before disappearing beyond a stand of palm trees. The farmer closes his eyes for just a moment. Not to sleep. Only to rest his thoughts. Soon enough he rises again, lifting his wooden hoe from the ground. The work is waiting. The work is always waiting. Yet it never seems impatient. Nearby, another family gathers beneath the broad shade of a sycamore tree. The shade is not large, but it is enough. A woven basket is opened. Inside are round loaves of bread baked before sunrise. There are onions wrapped in linen. A handful of fresh figs. A small clay jar filled with thick bean stew prepared early that morning. The family eats quietly. Dust clings to their sandals. Their hands show the marks of labor. The youngest child tears off a small piece of bread and watches tiny birds hopping nearby, hoping for a crumb. One brave bird comes close. Then another. The children smile softly but remain still, careful not to frighten them away. Even these brief moments become part of the day's familiar rhythm. A little food. A little shade. A little quiet. Then the work begins once more. Farther along the riverbank, fishermen bring their boats onto the muddy shore. The catch has been modest today. Enough to fill several baskets. Enough to feed many families. The fish glisten in the bright light before being covered with damp reeds to keep them cool. One fisherman sits beside his boat, examining the wooden oar that has served him for many seasons. A small crack has appeared near the handle. He runs his fingers across it thoughtfully. It is not serious. Not yet. Still, he knows it should be repaired before tomorrow. Small repairs prevent larger ones. This lesson has followed him throughout his life. He reaches into a nearby basket for a strip of leather and a little wooden peg. With slow, patient movements he strengthens the handle. When finished, he smiles quietly to himself. The oar will carry him again in the morning. Not far away, several young boys practice throwing small fishing nets into shallow water. Their first attempts are uneven. The nets twist awkwardly before falling into the river. The circles they hope to make become tangled shapes instead. An older fisherman watches from the bank. He says very little. Now and then he steps forward, gently adjusting the way one boy holds the rope. He shows another how to loosen stiff fingers before releasing the net. The boys try again. Each throw grows slightly better. Learning comes one mistake at a time. No one expects perfection before experience. In another village, hidden among clusters of date palms, a woman carefully mends a linen garment. She sits beside the doorway where the afternoon breeze can still reach her. Sunlight falls across the fabric resting in her lap. Her needle moves slowly through the cloth. Back and forth. Back and forth. The tiny stitches become almost invisible. The garment has already been repaired several times. Its fabric has grown softer over the years. It has belonged to one child. Then another. Perhaps it will belong to someone else before it is finally worn beyond repair. Clothing in ancient Egypt carries memories. Each patch reminds a family that careful work allows useful things to remain useful. Nothing needs to be discarded simply because it has grown old. Across the narrow street, an elderly potter rests outside his workshop. His wheel stands still for a little while. Fresh bowls and jars line the wall, drying in the sunlight. He studies each one with patient eyes. Some lean ever so slightly. Another has a rim just a little thicker than the others. He notices every small difference. Not because he seeks perfection, but because every vessel teaches something. After so many years, he still finds small lessons waiting in familiar work. His grandson joins him carrying 2 cups of cool water. The old man accepts one gratefully. For several minutes they simply sit together. Neither feels the need to fill the silence with conversation. The quiet itself is pleasant. The sounds around them are enough. The distant lowing of cattle. The rustle of palm leaves. The gentle tapping of someone repairing a wooden cart farther down the road. A child laughing briefly before being called back to help at home. The village speaks through these ordinary sounds. As afternoon deepens, the marketplace grows calmer. The busiest hours have passed. Merchants sit beneath woven awnings while waiting for late customers. Some mend baskets. Others count small bundles of grain received through trade. A seller of pottery wipes fine dust from freshly fired jars with a soft cloth. Across from him, a woman carefully folds linen into neat stacks. Nothing is displayed carelessly. Even arranging goods becomes part of a daily ceremony. Each evening everything will be gathered again. Tomorrow morning it will all be arranged once more. Routine brings order. Order brings peace. Near the edge of town, a donkey slowly turns a simple grinding device. Round and round it walks. Its pace never changes. The heavy stone crushes grain beneath its weight. The steady sound reaches nearby homes where families continue preparing food for the evening. The donkey needs little guidance. It knows the path. Its work is as familiar as the sunrise. Animals, too, become part of the rhythm that shapes the village. Oxen pull plows. Donkeys carry heavy loads. Geese wander freely through courtyards. Cats slip silently through storehouses, watching for mice among the grain. Every creature has its place. Every life follows its own quiet pattern. In the fields beyond, workers continue caring for the crops. One farmer notices a section where young plants appear weaker than the rest. He kneels beside them. The soil feels drier here. He follows the nearby irrigation channel until he discovers a small blockage made from reeds and silt. Without speaking, he removes the obstruction with his hands. Water begins flowing freely once again. It spreads slowly across the thirsty earth. He watches for a few moments before returning to his work. Problems are often solved quietly. Without celebration. Without complaint. Simply because they must be. Nearby, 2 sisters gather bundles of flax that have been drying beneath the sun. They tie each bundle carefully with woven cord. The younger sister asks how much longer the work will take. The older smiles gently. As long as it takes, she says. There is no impatience in her voice. Only acceptance. Many tasks cannot be hurried. The river flows at its own pace. Seeds grow in their own season. Bread rises when it is ready. Clay dries beneath the sun when enough hours have passed. Life teaches patience through countless ordinary moments. As the afternoon slowly begins to lean toward evening, shadows grow longer across the fields once more. The light softens. The fierce brightness of midday slowly fades into warmer shades of gold. Workers notice the change without looking directly at the sky. Their bodies have learned to feel the passing hours. Soon tools will be gathered. Boats will return to shore. Cooking fires will be lit. Families will come together again inside cool mud brick homes. But for now, there is still a little work left to finish. A little more grain to gather. A little more water to carry. A few more careful strokes of the hoe. One more basket to weave. One more page to write. One more loaf to bake. The rhythm continues without interruption, gentle and familiar, carrying every ordinary man, woman, and child through another peaceful day along the timeless banks of the Nile, where routine is not merely a habit but the quiet heartbeat of life itself. The afternoon slowly begins to soften. The brightest light of the day no longer falls straight from above but stretches gently across the valley. Long shadows begin to return, reaching farther over the fields with every passing moment. The heat remains, resting quietly upon the earth, but it has lost the sharpness that filled the middle hours. A gentle breeze returns from the direction of the river. It carries the cool scent of water mixed with damp reeds and fertile soil. For many workers, this small change is enough to lift tired shoulders. No one speaks about it. Everyone simply feels it. Across the wide fields beside the Nile, farmers continue their work with calm determination. A man kneels among rows of young barley. He reaches carefully between the growing plants, pulling away small weeds before they become strong enough to compete for water. Each movement is slow. Each handful is examined before being set aside. His fingers have learned to recognize the slightest differences in shape and texture. He no longer needs to think very hard. Years of quiet practice guide his hands. Beside him, his daughter works with the same patient care. She is still young. Her hands are smaller. She cannot move as quickly as her father. But she watches closely. Sometimes she glances toward him before beginning another row. Without realizing it, she copies the rhythm of his movements. Pull. Brush away the loose earth. Move forward one step. Pull again. This quiet rhythm will remain with her for many years. One day, it may guide her own children. Routine often passes from one generation to another without anyone noticing exactly when it happened. Nearby, a pair of oxen slowly pull a wooden cart along a narrow path between the fields. The cart carries empty grain baskets waiting for the coming harvest. The wheels turn with a steady creaking sound. The oxen lower their heads as they walk. They know this road well. Season after season they have traveled the same paths beneath the same Egyptian sky. The man walking beside them does not need to pull the rope very often. A gentle touch upon the shoulder. A quiet word. The animals understand. Their lives, like those of the people around them, follow familiar patterns shaped by repetition. At the edge of one irrigation channel, two brothers repair a section of the bank that has begun to crumble. Using flat wooden shovels, they press fresh mud into place. One smooths the surface with careful hands. The other gathers more earth from nearby. Neither speaks much. The work itself seems to guide their cooperation. One knows what the other will need before it is asked. Many years of working together have created a silent understanding. The channel must remain strong. If it breaks during the next watering, precious water may escape into places where it cannot help the crops. So they work patiently. A little mud. A little straw. Firm hands pressing everything together. The repair looks simple. Yet simple work, done well, protects the future. Farther down the river, a small group of fishermen prepares to return home. Their boats drift gently toward shore, guided by slow, even strokes of wooden oars. The afternoon sunlight dances across the water, turning every ripple into a soft flash of gold. One fisherman reaches into his basket and counts the day's catch. Not with excitement. Simply with quiet attention. There are enough fish for several families. Enough to trade for grain and vegetables. Enough for another ordinary day. He lifts one woven basket onto his shoulder. The weight settles comfortably across muscles strengthened by years of rowing and lifting. As he walks toward the village, damp footprints briefly appear in the soft earth before disappearing beneath the drying breeze. The river leaves its gentle mark upon everyone who depends on it. Near a cluster of palm trees, several women sit together spinning flax into fine thread. Their spindles turn with graceful, practiced movements. Twist. Pull. Twist again. The fibers grow longer beneath patient fingers. The soft sound of thread winding around the spindle mixes with quiet conversation. One woman speaks about her oldest son, who has begun learning to write. She smiles with quiet pride. Few families have the opportunity to send a child to study with a scribe. The work requires patience, careful eyes, and many years of practice. Another woman remembers when her own father served as a record keeper for a nearby estate. She recalls the smell of fresh papyrus, the dark stains of ink upon his fingertips, the careful way he rolled each scroll before placing it upon a wooden shelf. These memories arrive gently, like the breeze, never hurried. The spinning continues without pause. The stories simply travel beside the work. A short distance away, a young apprentice follows his master through a stone workshop. Large blocks of limestone rest upon the ground, waiting to be shaped. Fine white dust covers nearly every surface. The older craftsman pauses before one unfinished block. He runs his hand slowly across its surface. "Listen with your hands," he says quietly. The apprentice looks puzzled. The older man smiles gently. He places the young man's palm against the stone. "Feel where it is rough." The apprentice closes his eyes for a moment. Now he notices. Some places are smooth. Others are uneven. Only then does the older craftsman lift his hammer. One careful strike. A small piece falls away. Then another. Each movement is calm, measured. There is no force beyond what is needed. Stone rewards patience. It resists anger. The apprentice nods. He understands a little more than he did this morning. Lessons in ancient Egypt often arrive this way. Slowly. Quietly. One careful moment at a time. Across the village, children have finished many of their afternoon chores. For a little while they gather beneath the shade of a broad sycamore tree. Some braid reeds together. Others shape tiny figures from damp river clay. A few toss smooth pebbles back and forth in a simple game known only among themselves. Their laughter is gentle, never loud enough to disturb the peaceful rhythm of the village. Soon enough, one mother calls her son to help carry firewood. Another asks her daughter to gather eggs from the geese. The games end without complaint. The children rise and return to their responsibilities. Work has always been part of growing up. No one finds it unusual. Responsibility arrives little by little. Small baskets before larger ones. Short walks before longer journeys. Simple tasks before difficult ones. In this way, childhood gently becomes adulthood. The afternoon continues its slow passage. The marketplace grows quieter. A merchant rolls up a woven mat after selling nearly all of his vegetables. He counts a handful of grain received in exchange. Nearby, another trader carefully covers jars of oil with linen cloth to keep away dust. A basket maker inspects several woven handles before tying them neatly together. Every stall closes in almost the same order each evening. The motions become almost ceremonial. Goods are packed. Tools are gathered. Shelters are secured against the night breeze. Tomorrow morning everything will be opened once again. The same careful arrangement. The same greetings. The same familiar faces. Routine creates trust between neighbors. People know where to find one another. They know who bakes the finest bread, who shapes the strongest jars, who repairs sandals with careful stitching, who grows sweet onions near the river. Knowledge travels quietly through daily habit. Along a dusty road leading toward another settlement, a merchant walks beside two donkeys carrying woven bundles. The animals move steadily despite the long journey. Their bells make soft sounds with each patient step. The merchant has traveled this road many times before. He recognizes the shape of distant hills. He knows where travelers often stop for water. He knows which palm grove offers the coolest shade during the hottest days. The road itself has become familiar company. It asks little from him except patience. As the sun lowers a little farther toward the western sky, its light becomes warmer. The mud brick homes glow with soft shades of gold and amber. Palm leaves shimmer gently in the evening breeze. The Nile reflects the changing colors with quiet grace. Birds begin returning to nests hidden among reeds and branches. Their calls drift across the valley before slowly becoming fewer. The day is beginning its peaceful descent toward evening. Yet no one rushes to finish. There is still enough light for another careful task. Another basket carried home. Another loaf removed from the oven. Another fishing net folded neatly for tomorrow. Another page added to a scroll. Another child shown how to tie a secure knot. Another quiet conversation shared between neighbors standing beside a garden wall. The valley breathes with unhurried certainty. Every person moves within a rhythm older than memory itself. The river flows. The fields grow. The bread bakes. The workshops hum softly. Families labor, rest, and labor again. And beneath the warm Egyptian sky, where the desert meets the life-giving waters of the Nile, another ordinary afternoon gently settles into evening, adding one more peaceful thread to the endless tapestry of routine that quietly holds together the lives of countless ordinary people. The golden light of late afternoon slowly deepens across the Nile Valley. The brightness that covered the fields only a short while ago begins to soften into warmer colors. The long rows of barley and emmer wheat sway gently beneath the evening breeze. Palm trees cast long shadows that stretch across dusty paths, reaching toward the river as though they, too, are preparing to rest. The heat has not disappeared. It simply feels gentler now. The earth releases the warmth it gathered throughout the day. Mud brick walls hold that warmth inside them. Stone pathways feel pleasantly warm beneath worn sandals. The valley seems to breathe more slowly. Across the fields, the day's final tasks begin. A farmer pauses beside a wooden plow leaning against a low stone wall. Before leaving, he examines every part of it. The wooden beam. The leather bindings. The smooth handle polished by years of use. One strap has begun to loosen. Without hesitation, he kneels upon the dry ground and tightens the knot. The repair takes only a few moments. Still, he knows it is worth doing now. Morning should begin with work, not with searching for broken tools. This quiet habit has followed him for most of his life. Small care today saves larger effort tomorrow. Beside him, his oldest son gathers scattered ropes into neat coils. The boy wraps each length carefully around his arm before placing it inside a woven basket. His father watches for a moment but says nothing. The coils are tidy. The knots are secure. There is no correction to give. The boy has learned well through years of watching. Many lessons in ancient Egypt are never spoken aloud. Children simply grow into them. Not because someone demands it, but because every day offers another quiet opportunity to observe. Nearby, several women finish gathering vegetables from small garden plots beside their homes. They carefully pick onions from the loose earth. Bundles of herbs are tied together with thin strips of flax. Beans are placed inside broad woven baskets. Nothing is gathered carelessly. Each plant has required months of patient attention. Water carried from the river. Weeds removed one by one. Soil turned with simple wooden tools. Now the harvest is received with quiet gratitude. One woman gently brushes soil from an onion before placing it beside the others. She smiles softly. Not because the harvest is extraordinary, but because it is enough. Enough for another meal. Enough for another day. Enough to continue the familiar rhythm of life. Across the village, the smell of evening bread begins filling the air once again. Inside the baker's workshop, the clay oven glows with steady warmth. The baker reaches inside using a long wooden paddle. One loaf after another emerges with golden crusts darkened slightly by the fire. He taps the bottom of each loaf gently. The sound tells him whether it has baked properly. His ears have learned what his eyes cannot always see. The loaves are placed upon woven mats to cool. Steam rises slowly into the room. The scent of fresh grain mixes with wood smoke and warm clay. Several children wait patiently outside. They already know they must wait until the bread has cooled. One little girl stretches upward, hoping to catch another smell drifting through the doorway. The baker notices. He smiles kindly. After a few moments he breaks a small piece from one loaf and offers it to her. She accepts it with both hands. The bread is still warm. Its simple sweetness fills the quiet evening. She thanks him softly before hurrying home. Acts of kindness often appear in small moments like these. Nothing grand. Nothing remembered in official records. Yet they quietly shape the life of a village. Farther away, near the riverbank, fishermen return from their final journey of the day. The boats slide gently onto the muddy shore. Wood rubs softly against wet earth. One by one, baskets of fish are lifted onto waiting shoulders. The catch is sorted with calm efficiency. Larger fish will be traded tomorrow. Smaller ones may become tonight's meal. Nothing is wasted. One elderly fisherman remains seated inside his boat after the others have stepped ashore. For a moment he simply watches the river. The water reflects the changing sky. Small ripples spread where insects touch the surface. A pair of white birds stand motionless among the reeds. He has seen this scene thousands of times. Still, he never grows tired of it. The river is always familiar. Yet never exactly the same. Its quiet presence has shaped every season of his life. When he was a child, he watched these waters beside his father. Now his own grandchildren wait nearby to help carry the empty baskets home. The river quietly connects generations. Not through words, but through shared mornings, shared evenings, shared routines. In another part of the village, a potter opens the kiln that has remained hot throughout the day. Warm air escapes into the cooling evening. Inside, rows of freshly fired jars wait patiently. He removes them slowly. Each vessel is inspected beneath the fading sunlight. One has developed a tiny crack. It is set aside. Perhaps it can still hold dry grain. Another has fired perfectly. Its smooth surface glows softly in the golden light. The potter runs his hand across it with quiet satisfaction. Tomorrow someone will fill it with water, or oil, or flour. Perhaps it will remain in one family for many years. The thought pleases him. Simple work often travels far beyond the hands that created it. Nearby, A young apprentice carefully sweeps the workshop floor. Fine clay dust gathers into small piles. Broken pieces are collected. Tools are washed and placed in their usual places. Nothing is left scattered. Beginning tomorrow with an orderly workshop makes every task easier. The apprentice has heard this lesson many times. Now he no longer needs reminding. His hands move almost automatically. Routine has become part of his character. As evening grows closer, the marketplace slowly empties. Merchants fold woven awnings with practiced movements. Clay jars are carried indoors. Bundles of linen are stacked neatly against cool walls. The sounds of trading gradually fade. Instead, quieter sounds begin to take their place. Children returning home. Doors closing gently. Goats calling to one another. The soft scrape of brooms sweeping dust from courtyards. A woman pours fresh water across the packed earth in front of her doorway. The dust settles immediately. The cool scent of damp soil rises into the evening air. She smiles as the breeze carries the fresh smell through the small courtyard. Tomorrow the dust will return. She knows this. Still, she waters the ground. Not because the work lasts forever, but because every small act of care brings comfort, even if only for a little while. Along one narrow lane, an elderly man sits outside his home weaving a new rope from twisted flax fibers. His fingers move more slowly than they once did. Age has stiffened his joints. His eyesight is no longer sharp. Yet the rope grows steadily beneath his careful hands. A young grandson sits beside him. The boy watches every twist, every pull, every careful tightening. After a while, the old man hands him the unfinished rope. The boy tries. His first twists are uneven. The fibers loosen. The rope begins to unravel. The old man chuckles softly. Not with mockery. With warmth. He gently shows the movement again. Twist. Hold. Pull. Twist once more. The boy nods and tries again. This time the rope holds. No grand lesson is spoken. No ceremony marks the moment. Yet another small piece of knowledge quietly passes from one generation to the next. Above them, the first birds begin returning to their nests. The sky has become softer now. The bright blue slowly fades into pale gold, then gentle shades of rose and violet. The western horizon glows warmly where the sun continues its slow descent. The village itself seems to relax. The busiest work has ended. People no longer hurry between tasks. Instead, they walk with the comfortable pace of those who know the day has been well used. Families begin gathering once more inside cool mud brick homes. Cooking fires are lit. The scent of onions, lentils, fresh herbs, and warm bread drifts through the streets. Clay lamps wait to be lit after sunset. Children wash dusty feet before entering the house. Workers lean simple wooden tools against familiar walls. Each object returns to the place where it belongs. Every evening follows much the same pattern. Not because anyone insists upon it. Because this gentle order makes life peaceful. There is comfort in knowing where the water jar stands. Where the baskets are kept. Where tomorrow's tools are waiting. Outside, the Nile continues flowing beneath the quiet evening sky. Its waters reflect the fading sunlight in long ribbons of gold. The current remains steady. Untroubled. Just as it was in the morning. Just as it will be through the coming night. And while the river glides silently between fields that have fed generations, and while the breeze carries the scent of warm earth through villages preparing for another peaceful evening, countless ordinary families finish another familiar day, their lives gently guided by routines so steady and dependable that they become almost as timeless as the Nile itself. The sun slips a little lower toward the western horizon, and the Nile Valley begins its gentle passage from day into evening. The bright colors of the afternoon soften into warm shades of amber and gold. The fields, so full of quiet movement only a short while ago, become calmer with every passing moment. Workers continue their tasks, but there is no longer any urgency. The day has offered what it could, and now it slowly prepares to rest. The breeze coming from the river feels cooler. It carries the fresh scent of water across the warm earth. Palm fronds sway gently overhead, their leaves whispering together in soft conversation. Birds cross the sky in small groups, returning to places they have chosen for the night. Their wings catch the golden light before disappearing among the trees. The village seems to breathe more slowly. Along one dusty path, a farmer walks home with a wooden yoke resting across his shoulders. Two woven baskets hang from either side. One holds onions gathered from a small garden. The other contains fresh herbs and a few handfuls of beans. The baskets are not heavy compared to the bundles he carried earlier in the day, but after many hours of work every step asks for a little more effort. His sandals leave familiar marks in the dust. He has walked this path thousands of times. His father walked it before him. Perhaps his grandfather did as well. The road has quietly remembered generations of footsteps. As he reaches the edge of the village, neighbors greet him with gentle smiles. No long conversations begin. Everyone understands the peaceful tiredness that settles over workers near the end of the day. A nod. A quiet greeting. A few kind words. Then each person continues toward home. There is comfort in these simple exchanges. No one needs many words to know they belong to the same community. Nearby, a young girl carefully fills a small basket with dried reeds gathered beside the river. The reeds are light, but they will burn well in the evening fire. She carries them with both arms wrapped tightly around a bundle. Now and then one slips free and falls onto the path. She stops each time to pick it up. Nothing should be wasted. Even the smallest bundle of dry reeds has value. When she reaches home, her mother thanks her with a gentle touch upon the shoulder. The reeds are stacked neatly beside yesterday's bundle. Enough fuel has been gathered for several evenings. Small acts of preparation quietly shape peaceful tomorrows. Inside another home, an elderly couple prepares for the evening meal. The husband kneels beside a low wooden chest, carefully removing a small sack of grain. He pours just enough into a clay bowl before closing the sack again. Years of careful living have taught him not to use more than the family needs. His wife begins grinding the grain upon the familiar stone. The slow sound fills the room once again. Stone against stone. Back and forth. Back and forth. The rhythm is steady. Almost comforting. It is a sound that has marked the passing of every day for most of her life. When she was a little girl, she listened to her own mother grinding grain before sunrise. Later, she learned to move the heavy stone herself. Now her granddaughter watches nearby, quietly studying every motion. The lesson continues without anyone announcing that a lesson is taking place. Outside, two brothers guide a small group of goats into a simple enclosure made from reeds and wooden posts. The animals enter willingly. They know this place. The younger brother carefully counts them. 1, 2, 3. He pauses. Then counts again. His older brother smiles. You counted the smallest one twice. The younger boy laughs softly. Then begins again. This time the number is correct. The gate is secured with a leather strap. Tomorrow morning the goats will leave once more. Tonight they rest safely together. A little farther along the village path, smoke rises gently from many rooftops. Evening fires have been lit. The smell of baking bread joins the scent of onions roasting beside glowing coals. Some families prepare lentils. Others cook beans with herbs gathered earlier in the day. A fisherman carries several fresh fish toward his home. Their silver scales reflect the last golden sunlight before disappearing inside the doorway. Meals differ from house to house. Yet they share the same quiet purpose: to restore strength, to gather family together, to prepare everyone for another sunrise. Across the village square, a potter arranges finished jars beneath a simple shelter. He covers them with woven mats to protect them from the cool night air. One by one, he checks every vessel. He taps each gently with his knuckles. A clear sound pleases him. A dull sound tells him another crack has appeared. Those jars are set aside. Even cracked pottery may still find another use. Perhaps for storing dry seeds. Perhaps for carrying sand. Perhaps broken into pieces that strengthen new clay. Very little is truly useless. Every object may begin another life in another form. Nearby, the village carpenter sits outside his workshop sharpening a bronze blade. The whetstone moves slowly beneath his hands. A gentle scraping sound rises into the quiet evening. He tests the edge with his thumb. Not touching the sharpness directly, only feeling its smoothness. Satisfied, he wipes the blade clean and places it beside several other carefully arranged tools. Tomorrow morning he will not need to search for anything. Everything will already be waiting. Preparation is another kind of routine. It allows tomorrow to begin peacefully. At the edge of the Nile, several boys help pull a fishing boat farther onto the bank. Their feet sink slightly into the damp mud. Together they lean backward, pulling upon thick ropes made from twisted flax. The boat slides slowly forward. The work is heavy. The boys laugh quietly whenever someone loses balance for a moment. An older fisherman thanks them warmly. As a reward, he lets them examine one of the larger fish before carrying it away. The children study its smooth scales with wide eyes. One boy traces the shape of its fins with a careful finger. Soon enough they run back toward the village, still talking softly among themselves. Simple moments like these become treasured memories. Not because they are rare, but because they belong naturally to everyday life. As twilight approaches, the colors of the valley continue changing. The sky above the eastern desert grows deeper blue. The western horizon glows with soft orange light. The Nile mirrors both colors at once. Gold upon blue. Light upon shadow. The river quietly joins them together. Along the water's edge, an old ferryman secures his boat with a thick rope tied around a worn wooden post. He checks the knot twice. Strong enough. It has held through many evenings before. He runs his hand across the side of the boat. The wood feels smooth where years of water have polished it. Tomorrow, before sunrise, he will untie the same rope. He will guide travelers across the river once again. Farmers, merchants, children, scribes. The faces change from day to day. The crossing remains the same. Routine quietly connects strangers who may never know one another's names. Back within the village, lamps begin appearing one after another. Small clay dishes filled with oil are carefully lit. Tiny flames flicker gently inside open doorways. Their warm light dances across mud brick walls. Long shadows stretch across the floors. The homes seem to grow even more peaceful. Children wash dusty hands before sitting down for the evening meal. Parents place fresh bread into waiting hands. An elderly grandmother quietly breaks a loaf into equal pieces, making certain everyone receives enough. No one rushes. The meal begins with grateful silence. Outside, the sounds of labor gradually fade away. The last hammer rests. The final basket is carried indoors. The final goat settles upon the earth. The final cart creaks to a stop beside its familiar wall. Now different sounds take their place. Soft conversations. The crackle of cooking fires. The gentle singing of insects hidden among the reeds. The distant splash of fish rising briefly beneath the darkening water. The valley has entered another peaceful evening. Not through sudden change, but through countless small moments unfolding one after another, just as they have done for generations. The people scarcely notice the rhythm because it has become part of them. They do not follow routine because someone commands it. They follow it because it feels as natural as breathing. As natural as the sunrise. As natural as the quiet flow of the Nile beneath the stars. And so, while the first evening stars begin appearing above the ancient land, another ordinary day gently folds itself into memory, leaving behind only the comforting feeling of work honestly done, family gathered close, and tomorrow already waiting with the same calm, familiar promise. Twilight settles softly across the Nile Valley. The final glow of the sun lingers for a little while along the western horizon, painting the edges of the clouds with quiet shades of amber and rose. Little by little, those colors begin to fade. The sky deepens into gentle blue, and the first bright stars appear overhead, patient and unhurried. The day does not suddenly end. Instead, it slowly exhales. The warmth stored inside the mud brick walls begins drifting back into the evening air. The ground still holds the memory of the afternoon sun beneath every sandal. The breeze moving across the river feels cooler now, carrying with it the scent of wet reeds, rich earth, and distant fields that have finally fallen silent. Inside the villages, cooking fires glow warmly. Tiny sparks rise into the darkening sky before disappearing among the stars. Clay lamps are lit one after another. Their small flames flicker softly inside doorways and narrow windows, creating pools of golden light that seem almost to float within the deepening evening. Families gather naturally around those lights. No one announces that supper has begun. Everyone simply knows. Routine has quietly taught each person when to return home. Inside one modest house, a father washes his hands with cool water poured carefully from a clay jar. The dust of the field slips away in thin streams, leaving faint lines upon the packed earth floor. His hands are broad. The skin across his palms is thick from years of holding wooden handles and rough rope. Tiny scars cross his fingers. Some are so old that he no longer remembers how they appeared. Others are newer, earned only days ago while repairing an irrigation channel. He dries his hands upon a simple linen cloth before sitting beside his family. His youngest daughter quietly places fresh bread into his hands. She smiles without speaking. He nods with gentle thanks. Simple kindness needs very few words. Nearby, the mother stirs a clay pot resting above the glowing coals. Steam rises slowly into the room. The smell of lentils, onions, garlic, and herbs fills the small house. The meal is plain. Yet after a full day of labor, it feels rich enough. Each family member waits until everyone has gathered. Then the food is shared. Bread is broken. Bowls are passed from one pair of hands to another. Children learn not to reach before others. Patience is practiced even during supper. The meal unfolds without hurry. Outside, another family sits beneath the open sky rather than inside. The evening has become pleasantly cool. The oldest grandmother leans comfortably against the mud brick wall while watching her grandchildren eat. She notices how quickly the youngest boy finishes his bread. She laughs softly and tears another piece from her own loaf. He accepts it with grateful eyes. She has watched many children grow. Some are now parents themselves. The rhythm continues. One generation quietly makes room for the next. Across the narrow lane, an elderly basket maker finishes the final rows of a large storage basket. His fingers move more slowly than they once did. The reeds feel stiff after a long day. Still, he continues patiently. The basket must be completed before sleep. Not because anyone has demanded it. Simply because tomorrow another family will need it. He bends one final reed beneath the rim. Then another. The weaving tightens. The shape is complete. He turns the basket over, examining every side. Satisfied, he sets it beside the doorway. Morning sunlight will reveal it clearly. For now, the soft glow of his oil lamp is enough. A gentle breeze passes through the village. It carries the smell of fresh bread from one home. Roasted fish from another. Wood smoke drifts slowly upward before disappearing into the clear night. Palm leaves rustle quietly overhead. Somewhere in the distance, a cow shifts its weight before settling down once more. The sounds of labor have almost completely disappeared. Now the village belongs to quieter voices. Near the riverbank, the ferryman remains awake a little longer than most. He walks toward his boat carrying a small oil lamp. The rope securing the boat is checked once again. He runs his fingers across the knot. Strong. Reliable. The wooden hull rocks gently against the muddy bank. Tiny waves touch its side with soft splashing sounds. He has heard this sound nearly every evening of his life. As a young boy he once sat beside his father in this same place. The older man had checked the same rope. The same knot. The same boat, though many repairs have been made since those years. Now the son performs the same careful inspection. No one instructed him to repeat every movement exactly. Habit quietly preserved the knowledge. Routine became tradition. Tradition became comfort. The river itself seems almost asleep. Its current moves steadily beneath the moonlight. Silver reflections stretch across the water whenever the breeze ripples the surface. Fish occasionally disturb the stillness with a brief splash before disappearing beneath the dark water again. Reeds whisper gently together. Frogs begin their evening songs. The sounds are soft enough to blend into one peaceful chorus. Far beyond the villages, where cultivated land slowly meets the desert, the evening feels different. The sand releases the heat it gathered throughout the day. The air grows still. Small desert animals begin their quiet search for food beneath the stars. An owl glides silently above the rocky ground. Its wings make almost no sound. Even here, away from the farms and villages, life follows dependable patterns. Night belongs to different creatures than day. Each understands its own time. Back inside the villages, children begin growing sleepy. One little girl rests her head against her mother's shoulder before the meal has even ended. Her eyelids become heavier with each passing moment. The day's adventures have quietly exhausted her. Helping gather vegetables. Carrying a tiny water jar. Watching birds beside the river. Listening to her grandfather's stories. For a child, these ordinary moments fill an entire world. Her mother gently lifts her into her arms. The little girl barely wakes. She is carried to a woven sleeping mat laid carefully upon the floor. A folded linen cloth serves as a pillow. It is simple. Comfort comes less from the bed than from honest tiredness. Nearby, her older brother remains awake a little longer. His father has invited him outside. Together they stand beneath the stars. Neither speaks immediately. They simply look upward. The sky is clear. Thousands upon thousands of stars shine above the Nile Valley. The father quietly points toward a familiar group of stars that has guided travelers for many years. The boy follows his finger. He has seen these stars before. Tonight he notices them more carefully. The lesson is brief. Tomorrow there will be more work. No long explanation is needed. Only a shared moment beneath the night sky. Inside another home, an elderly woman carefully folds several pieces of linen before placing them inside a wooden chest. Each cloth is smoothed by hand. Corners are aligned neatly. The chest itself has served the family for many decades. Its wooden lid creaks softly whenever it opens. The woman smiles as she remembers placing her wedding linens inside it many years ago. Time has passed gently. Children have grown. Grandchildren now fill the house. Yet the familiar evening routine remains almost unchanged. Fold the cloth. Cover the bread. Check the water jars. Sweep the floor. Prepare tomorrow's tools. Extinguish the lamp before sleeping. These small actions quietly mark the end of another day. Elsewhere, a scribe sits beside a nearly empty oil lamp. One final record remains unfinished. He dips his reed pen into dark ink. Carefully he completes the last few lines upon the papyrus. The letters flow steadily across the page. There is no hurry. Writing too quickly invites mistakes. When the work is finished, he gently blows across the fresh ink. He rolls the scroll with practiced hands. Places it upon a shelf. Cleans his pen. Covers the ink. Each object returns to its proper place. Tomorrow morning, nothing will need to be searched for. Everything waits patiently. Order itself becomes a quiet companion. Throughout the valley, one lamp after another begins to disappear. Families prepare for sleep. Fires are covered so their warmth will remain until morning. Doors are closed against wandering animals. Water jars stand ready for the new day. Tools rest quietly beside familiar walls. The village slowly surrenders itself to silence. Above it all, the Nile continues its endless journey through the darkness. It does not pause. It does not hurry. It simply flows, carrying cool water between fields, villages, reeds, and distant cities, just as it has for countless generations. And beneath the peaceful blanket of stars, as weary families settle onto woven mats and the last gentle voices fade into the night, another ordinary day comes quietly to rest, leaving behind nothing grand or remarkable, only the deep, steady comfort of lives shaped by simple routines, faithfully repeated along the timeless banks of the ancient Nile. The night has become deep and wonderfully still. The last cooking fires have faded into quiet embers. The clay lamps, one by one, have gently gone dark. Across the villages that rest beside the Nile, only the moon now offers its soft light, laying a silver path upon the slow-moving water. The wind has grown gentle. It passes through the tall reeds with a whisper so soft it almost sounds like breathing. Palm trees sway only slightly. The fields, worked so faithfully through another ordinary day, now rest beneath the stars. The wooden plows lean quietly against familiar walls. The baskets have been emptied. The fishing nets hang to dry. The grinding stones are still. The workshops sleep. The markets are silent. The boats drift gently where they have been tied for the night. Inside the mud brick homes, families lie close together upon woven mats. The youngest children are already deep in peaceful sleep. Parents rest beside them. Grandparents, whose hands have carried the memory of so many seasons, breathe slowly in the quiet darkness. No one is thinking about tomorrow now. Tomorrow will arrive when it is ready. The river understands this. The earth understands this. The stars above have watched countless nights just like this one. They have watched generations wake before dawn, bake bread, carry water, tend fields, weave baskets, shape clay, guide boats, write careful records, repair worn tools, gather with family, and then return once more to peaceful sleep. For thousands upon thousands of ordinary people, life was not measured by great victories or famous names. It was measured by familiar mornings. By warm bread shared with loved ones. By cool river water carried home at sunrise. By the comforting weight of a well-used tool. By quiet conversations beneath the shade of a palm tree. By children slowly learning the same gentle skills their parents once learned. By evenings when tired hands finally came to rest. These small moments rarely found their way into monuments or royal inscriptions. Yet they were the steady heartbeat of ancient Egypt. Without them, no temple would have stood. No city would have flourished. No harvest would have filled the granaries. No kingdom could have endured. It was the ordinary rhythm of ordinary people that quietly held the world together. And now, as the Nile continues its endless journey beneath the moon, the villages grow quieter still. The frogs sing softly among the reeds. A fish briefly breaks the smooth surface of the water before disappearing again. Somewhere in the distance, a night bird calls once, then falls silent. The breeze carries the cool scent of the river through sleeping homes. Nothing asks to be hurried. Nothing asks to be remembered all at once. Everything simply belongs where it is. The stars continue their patient journey overhead. The river continues its patient journey below. Between them, the ancient land rests peacefully, wrapped in the calm certainty that another sunrise will come, another loaf of bread will be baked, another field will be tended, another family will gather together, and another quiet day will gently follow the last. And as your own thoughts begin to drift as slowly as the waters of the Nile, you can leave those ancient villages just as quietly as you entered them. The dusty paths grow distant. The warm desert breeze becomes softer. The gentle glow of the clay lamps fades completely. Only the peaceful river remains, flowing steadily through the silent night. May its calm rhythm carry away the last weight of the day. May the quiet voices of the ancient world fade into the gentle sound of flowing water. May the stillness of the Nile become your own stillness. And may the peaceful routine of a land long ago guide you softly into deep, restful, and undisturbed sleep. Good night.